Do you think that there's a vested interest in keeping the war on drugs going?
Yes, I think there is a vested interest. In America, there's 1.8 million people in privatized prisons for taking drugs. And throughout the world, the police forces make a living out of drugs. Customs make a living out of drugs. The courts make a living out of drugs. And if you decided to treat drugs as a health problem, not a criminal problem, all that infrastructure drops away, and you can instead spend that money. Governments can spend that money on education, on health, and on other more useful things.
You have previously described the current US policy on drugs as a racist law against black people. Do you believe that the drug laws are similarly harsh on black users in the UK?
Yes, I think if you look at things like stop and search in the UK, it's predominantly young black people that get stopped and searched. And interestingly, at the moment, that Theresa May, the Home Secretary, is actually trying to change that law, but getting resistance from Downing Street. So, and the drug laws generally, as a result of things like stop and search, are therefore penalising black people rather than white people, and black people end up spending more time in prison than white people.
Do you think because drugs are illegal, young people use them as a form of like rebellion?
I think that there is a danger that when something is illegal, that it will be used as a form of rebellion. Whereas, like in Holland, where it was legalized, local people in Holland, young people in Holland hardly use drugs, and the amount of people using them is less than in countries where it's illegal. So I think that there is an element of rebellion in the way that people do use drugs today.
By decriminalizing the use of drugs, would this in any way be sending a message to young people that drugs are safe?
Well, I think cigarettes are decriminalized. But people tell people of the dangers of cigarettes, and I think they're now not having cigarettes on display in a lot of shops, and the amount of people who are taking cigarettes is reducing every year because people know how dangerous it is. Drink, it is dangerous, and actually getting drunk you can do danger to other people, and again, people can get out and tell people to be responsible, and they do. And then, as far as say marijuana is concerned, people don't harm other people who smoke marijuana. A few of them can harm themselves by overdoing it, in the same way that they harm themselves by overdoing drink. The vast majority of people who smoke pot do it in a sensible way, instead of drinking, and do themselves no harm whatsoever. And the only harm that's done is if they're arrested and given a criminal record and they can't travel to America, or it damages their careers.
One of the incredible things in Portugal is that over 10 years ago, like you said on the Drug Commission report, they decriminalised the use of drugs, and they've seen a massive drop in drug use and many other things like HIV and stuff like that. However, in the UK, the current legal high market is booming. Doesn't this contradict the idea that legalisation will reduce the consumption of drugs?
Well, look, in Portugal, 12 years ago now, they decriminalised all drugs. So, heavy drugs like heroin right through to pot. And what they said was, if you have a drug problem, come and see us. Come and see a psychiatrist. Come and see a social worker, and we'll try to help you. And as a result, drugs, instead of them being number 3 on, the most talked about, worried about list in Portugal, is now dropped to number 17, and the amount of drug addicts has been reduced dramatically. And and I think that if that happened in the UK, the same thing would happen. I think that, you know, what we need is to help our children, is to help our brothers and sisters when they have a problem, not to arrest them, not to imprison them, because that's not the way to help them. And if the money that can be spent on prison sentences could be spent on clinics, you know, we would get on top of the problem.
Like you're going on about the prison and stuff like that, one of the main things is that it can put young people in a vicious circle because they take drugs whether it's just for experimentation, they get then criminal record, and then have, especially in consideration of unemployment levels at the moment, they have a really hard time of finding a job. Now, with the report of commission, the drug report commission, the UK's government response hasn't been especially sort of like pro towards it. What do you think could be done in the meanwhile to help these young people to follow along with the recommendations of the report?
Yeah, I mean, the Global Drug Commission have done very in-depth studies. Now, the Global Drug Commission consists of 15 ex-presidents, you know, Kofi Annan, who used to be the Secretary General of the United Nations, you know, people, you know, who really know what they're talking about, and little me as the business representative. But you know, I mean, they've done enormous in-depth studies, and you know, and the answer to the problem screams out, and that is, you know, just you know, if somebody has a drug problem, help them and don't lock them up. And as you say, by locking them up, you put them in a situation where they meet other hardened criminals. They get a record. They have difficulty getting jobs, and it is a vicious circle. And you know, and the danger is they'll go back to maybe pushing drugs so you know, why is the government not doing something about it? When you speak to them individually, almost every single person individually says this is the right thing. They believe it's going to cost them votes at the election. I don't think it will. And I think what's happening in America right now shows that now a majority of people actually believe that drugs should be treated as a health problem, not a criminal problem.
Considering the immense financial cost of the war on drugs, how much longer do you think the UK can continue to justify pursuing such an unwinnable fight?
What we need around the world is brave politicians that do what they know to be right, not, you know, what they know to be popular. And you know, the Liberal Democratic Party have, I think they will come out saying, you know, enough is enough. We've got to change things, and it would be great if the Conservatives and Labour Party could join them. To be honest, I have no idea when they will do that. I think they'll be left behind. America will push on, and I think state after state will fall. It just seems foolish that Britain is going to be, you know, they'll come kicking and screaming in a few years. But I wish they could hurry up with it. Yeah.
To continue on from America, so cannabis has recently legalized in Colorado and Washington. If only one drug was to be legalized in the UK, which one and why?
Well, I think I mean I would definitely advocate the legalization of cannabis, but I would point out that skunk is very dangerous and messes people up. And the trouble is that skunk is cheaper than cannabis, and therefore, you know, and it's more powerful, and therefore it's really taking hold. Another reason for legalization, because you know, if you can actually make sure that the products that are sold are of good quality and are not going to mess with people's heads, like, you know, with normal drugs that are sold in a chemist shop, you know, then you can give people the drugs which will not do them harm, rather than the drugs that do them harm.
Okay, thank you very much. Alcohol abuse, widely considered as a health issue, of course, costs Britain over £20 billion, according to a recent government report. What's to stop, if other drugs were legalised, the same issue occurring, because people abusing drugs?
Look, today people, if I want to get some drugs, give me 2 minutes and I'll be able to get drugs. So, the problem of excess use of alcohol or drugs or cigarettes exists anyway. It's much better and easier to deal with that problem if you know that someone has a problem. If you're somebody who has a problem and you can't go and get help about it because you might get arrested, then you'll go on abusing yourself. Boyd George was one of our artists many years ago. I took him to a health clinic. The police turned up at the health clinic and arrested him, and he'd already made up his mind to get off heroin. That set him back, a couple of years and nearly killed him. Not a very sensible idea.
Yeah. And one more question: if alcohol was only discovered today, do you think it would still be legal?
I think my general feeling is that adults should be able, as long as they're not hurting other people, to do pretty well anything they wish in life, and therefore, I think if alcohol was discovered today, I would say, if an adult wants to, have a glass of wine or have something stronger, they should be able to do so. Obviously, we've all got to try to do it in moderation, and the market research shows that 95% of people who drink alcohol do it in moderation, and it's only about 5% who have a problem. And I don't think you should penalise those 95% of people for the 5% of people who have a problem.